In the mid-2010s, Boogie was an absolute force of nature, a titan in the paint who had the finesse of a point guard. At 6'11", 270 pounds, DeMarcus Cousins moved with brutal force. He was a mix of raw power and shocking skill that the league had almost never seen before. Boogie Cousins wasn't just on track for a supermax contract, he was on a clear path to the Hall of Fame. For quite a while, there was no debate that he was one of the best big men in the league. He was a freak of nature, a walking double-double who could score from anywhere, rebound with pure force and pass like a point guard. But one single awkward landing marked the beginning of a tragic decline. It was a moment that echoed louder than any buzzer beater and marked the beginning of one of the most sudden and heartbreaking collapses in NBA history. This is the tragic story of how a series of devastating injuries, starting with a torn Achilles, completely derailed an iconic career and left the basketball world asking one of the most painful what-if questions ever. DeMarcus Cousins' story starts in Alabama, where his unbelievable talent became obvious from a young age. During his high school career, he wasn't just good, he was a full-blown basketball phenomenon. As a senior, he put up mind-boggling numbers, averaging over 24 points and 13 rebounds a game and earning the title of McDonald's All-American. His dominance was undeniable. He had that fire that every dominant Hall of Fame big man always has. That fire came with him to the University of Kentucky, where he joined another future #1 pick in John Wall. In his one and only season as a freshman, DeMarcus Cousins was spectacular. He averaged 15 points and nearly 10 rebounds per game and was named a second-team All-American and helped lead the Kentucky Wildcats to the Elite Eight. He was a grown man playing amongst skinny teenagers, so after just 1 year, it was clear he was ready for the NBA draft. On draft night, the Sacramento Kings saw the monumental talent that Cousins possessed, taking him with the 5th overall pick in the 2010 NBA draft, hoping that he'd be the guy to finally pull their franchise back into relevance. In Sacramento, Boogie made his presence felt immediately, earning himself a spot on the NBA All-Rookie First Team with an impressive 14 points and 8.6 rebounds per game. But despite that impressive rookie season, the Kings were still a mess. Over the next couple seasons, they cycled through coaches and just couldn't build a winning culture around their young star. For years, Boogie's individual greatness was lost in the shadow of the team's constant losing and poor management. But through all that chaos, Boogie just kept getting better and better. By the 2013-14 season, his production absolutely exploded. Those flashes of greatness turned into consistent, terrifying dominance game after game. The next season, he averaged 24.1 points and 12.4 rebounds per game. The year after that, it jumped again to an absurd 26.9 points and 11.5 rebounds per game. From 2015 to 2018, he was an All-Star every single year, racking up 4 total All-Star selections while playing for a completely irrelevant team meant that he was without a doubt the best center in the league. He could bully you in the post, step outside and drain threes, or run the offense from the high post. He was the modern big man before it even became modern. And despite all that losing and front office drama, Cousins stayed loyal. He said over and over again he wanted to build a winning team in Sacramento. That's home, he'd say. Even as his frustration was clearly peaking, he poured his heart into a franchise that just couldn't match his plans. But this was a loyalty that would lead to his first real heartbreak and career setback. The first real turning point wasn't an injury, it was betrayal by the team he had stuck with despite the constant losing. It all went down during the 2017 All-Star Weekend in New Orleans. Just minutes after playing in the All-Star game, after telling reporters how committed he was to the Kings, he was pulled aside and told he'd been traded. He was heading to the New Orleans Pelicans for Buddy Hield and some other pieces. DeMarcus Cousins was completely blindsided and devastated. This was more than a business decision, it felt personal. He had given his loyalty to a city and franchise that had nothing going for it, only to be tossed aside in a hotel hallway. And from a financial standpoint, the move was detrimental. He was on the verge of signing a supermax extension with the Kings that was reportedly worth an incredible $209 million. That type of money is life-altering, but after the trade, it was gone in an instant. But there was a silver lining. In New Orleans, he teamed up with his old Kentucky teammate in Anthony Davis, forming what was arguably one of the most dominant frontcourts in the entire NBA. For a while, everything seemed perfect. The new formed Twin Towers in New Orleans were terrorizing the league. In the 2017-18 season, DeMarcus Cousins was playing the best basketball of his entire life, averaging a phenomenal 25.2 points, 12.9 rebounds, and a career-high 5.4 assists per game. The Pelicans were a legitimate threat, and Boogie was finally on a winning team that was about to make a trip to the playoffs. Then, disaster struck. On January 26, 2018, in a game against the Houston Rockets, DeMarcus Cousins went up for a rebound in the final seconds of the quarter. But when he came down, his left leg just buckled, leaving Boogie on the floor in immense pain. The diagnosis was the one injury every athlete dreads. The injury that we just saw take down and end Jimmy Butler's season, a torn Achilles tendon. In that single moment, everything changed. The injury didn't just end his season, it ended his prime. The explosiveness and sheer athletic dominance that made him so dominant was gone in one awkward landing. That summer, all those huge, long-term contracts he was supposed to sign just vanished. Teams were terrified of what an Achilles tear does to a big man, so instead of a max deal, he was left with a painful choice. In what he called a chess move, he decided to bet on himself, signing a one-year, $5.3 million deal with the former champs, the Golden State Warriors, in a move to try and form one of the most unstoppable teams in NBA history. It was a move born from both desperation and ambition. If he couldn't get paid, he could at least try and get a ring. He joined a historic super team with Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. The plan was simple: recover, help them win a title, and prove to the league he was still a dominant force worth big money. After a long, brutal rehab, he finally returned in January 2019. In 30 games for the Warriors, he looked solid, averaging over 16 points and 8 rebounds per game. It seemed like his gamble might actually pay off. This story is just a powerful reminder of how fragile a career in sports can be. If you appreciate these deep dives into NBA history, take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps me bring more of these remarkable stories to light. At the end of the 2019 season, it became official. Boogie had finally made it to the playoffs, the stage that he had never been to in his entire career. But his dream quickly turned into a reoccurring nightmare. In just the second game of the first round, chasing a loose ball, he crumbled to the floor with no contact. This time, it was a torn left quad. It was a heartbreaking image. Here was a guy who thought his way back from one career-altering injury, only to get struck down by another one on the biggest stage. He made a gutsy return for the NBA Finals that year, coming off the bench and even having a huge game 2 with a double-double, but he was a shadow of his former self. That second major injury that occurred less than 18 months after the ACL tear had stolen whatever athleticism he'd managed to maintain. The super team dream ended in a finals loss to the Toronto Raptors, mainly due to other stars Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant also going out with major injuries, meaning not only did DeMarcus Cousins go down with another major injury, he also didn't receive the ring that was the entire reason he came to Golden State in the first place. Not only did he not get his ring, but he was also a free agent again. His body was broken and his market value had been destroyed. What came next was a sad journey between teams throughout the league. He signed with the Lakers only to tear his ACL once again in a pickup game before ever playing for them. From there, he became a journeyman, bouncing from the Rockets to the Clippers, then to the Bucks, and finally to the Denver Nuggets. He'd have flashes, moments where the old Boogie would reappear. A 31-point game for the Nuggets showed the skill was still there, but that didn't matter since the explosiveness that made him a star was long gone. His last NBA game was with the Denver Nuggets in the 2022 playoffs. After that, his NBA journey was over at just 31 years old. After that, he went on to play overseas in places like Taiwan and Puerto Rico. But in February 2024, he confirmed his quest for an NBA comeback was officially over. Today, DeMarcus Cousins works as a media analyst, offering the same sharp, unfiltered takes on the league that he was known for as a player. It's a great reminder of the brilliant basketball mind that went along with his incredible physical gifts. But his story will forever be one of the greatest what-ifs in sports history. If the injuries never happened, what would his legacy be? He almost certainly would have signed that Supermax deal and secured generational wealth. Could he have won a championship with the Pelicans? Or have been the final piece to help the Warriors pull through in the 2019 finals? Would he have continued his streak of all-star games and walked into the Hall of Fame? There's even a possibility that we could be debating his place among the greatest centers of all time. A conversation that he was already on his way to joining before the injuries. Instead, his career is a brutal reminder of just how fragile greatness can become. It's a story of immense talent, fierce loyalty, crushing betrayal, and the cruel reality of injuries. DeMarcus Cousins had all the tools to build an empire, but in the end, his body betrayed him, leaving fans with just the memory of the dominant, passionate, and complicated superstar he was. But what do you think? If he had stayed healthy, do you think DeMarcus Cousins could have become a Hall of Famer? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more incredible basketball stories. Thanks for watching and goodbye.